the Jets improving on paper. And in that conversation, we didn't really discuss the rest of the division. And with this move, it made me want to like reset and recalibrate and see where you thought the Jets stacked up in the division. So we both have our lists. If we want to go from like 4 to 1, how would you rank this division? So who do you got in the last spot? We could just say it at the same time if you want, because it's fun to say. You ready?
New England Patriots.
Patriots. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gerard Mayo, like, just for the sheer fact of it's a complete unknown, right? I'd probably have him at 4 if Bill was still there too. And that's not to be a homer and just hate on Bill. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's just, to borrow the old Jets term, like, they're a little bit like bereft of talent. Like, there's some good players on the defense. Christian Gonzalez is I think he's going to be ready for the start of the year. Like, they're fine on defense. They've always been good on defense. Will Gerard Mayo be able to coach the defense as well as Bill did? I don't know. Like, they were pretty good at, playing that kind of like amoeba style where they can just kind of shift what they do depending on what they're trying to shut down on the opponent's side. They're just like, and a lot of it's going to come down to draft. Are they going to take a quarterback? Are they going to roll with Jacoby Brissett? I'd imagine that, being the culture of New England Patriots, I assume a lot of that is going to stay intact because Mayo was a player that played for Belichick and he coached under Belichick. Like, so I assume a lot of that's staying intact. And I think based on that culture, like, you would expect Brissett to play out of the gate, even if they do draft a guy at that 3 spot, or if they slide down and take one later, whatever it is, I expect Brissett to play. And he's going to be better than Mac Jones was. It's just that the division's pretty good, and it's kind of their turn to be in the basement. So go down there, turn the lights off, sit in there for a few years, and, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I mean, they've got beyond problems at the quarterback position, which, Jacoby Brissett is probably a step up from Mac Jones. But they've got problems on the offensive line. They've got the 3rd pick in the draft, and both teams ahead of them are locked in on taking a quarterback. So please, for the love of God, I know we're praying to Chicago and DC to not fuck this up, but like, ideally, I don't think we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and all 3 quarterbacks are going to be studs. If Chicago and DC hit on their quarterbacks and they end up with the 3rd guy who's not the guy, like, Patriots could end up in this cycle for a while. So it's nice to see him in the basement. Who do you got at number 3?
I got Miami at number 3. And it's just for the, like, it's pretty simple, right? I like McDaniel a lot. This is about Tua. It's all about Tua. I don't think that he has it. I think that, like, even in that period last year where they were just throwing up ungodly numbers on the scoreboard, like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel real. It's all like speed-based stuff, and that's great. I just don't think it's necessarily sustainable. And, Tyreek has like, same point I was kind of making with Diggs. Like, Tyreek's been around a little while now. Like, he's due for a step back. And I'm not saying that he stinks now or that he's going to stink in the very near future. I'm just saying, like, his whole game is speed. He's due for a step back. He's getting a little older. Achane got hurt last year, rookie, so it might be nothing. They might be fine. Like I said, it just all comes down to Tua. Their defense isn't that good either. We'll see, what they're able to do from that standpoint. There was like the rumor about Fangio leaving was essentially that, like, nobody on that defense wanted to work hard, which could be like a cultural problem a little bit, which is probably not isolated to the defense if it's real. But I just, like, I don't know. I don't even know if I can really fully logically explain why. It's just like, yeah, Miami's not that good.
So, I mean, the Dolphins, I think, without a doubt, did not get better this offseason. They lost Fangio. They lost free agents. They lost people on the line. And, like, you and I share an opinion on Tua. And when, he needs to be in perfect conditions in order to thrive. And you saw that the offense is humming when that's the case. But, like, they did not get better. They're losing key pieces on the defense in addition to losing Fangio. And the other teams in the division, or some of the other teams in the division, improved or already were better with them. So I'm aligned with you on the 3 spot. This is where we differ. I'll go first. I've got the Jets in the 2 spot. And I think, if you look at betting lines, both of us having them over Miami is like not necessarily what the public thinks. So there could be some homerism at play here.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I mean, I think the Jets have the best defense in the division. They clearly improved their offensive line, which was their glaring weakness going into last season. How much, the offensive line has improved on the field remains to be seen. We'll see, obviously, what they can add to it in the draft. But that was a major hole. They've improved on their wide receiver core, albeit, with some caveats that we discussed last week. The reason I have them in the 2 spot, and we just talked about, the Bills obviously traded Diggs. They've been in cap hell and have cut a lot of key pieces, and they got rid of Diggs. Davis is gone. Like Josh Allen's number 1 receivers look like that Jets graphic from 2020 when it was Sharon Peak. And so
Sharon Peak.
I don't fault you for being optimistic. The reason I have them at 2 simply comes down to, at the end of the day, it's comparing to me a team led by Josh Allen versus a team led by Aaron Rodgers coming off of the Achilles, and not being able to put my full faith in. I mean, like, Rodgers playing 17 games, I think, would be a miracle. And Josh Allen playing 17 games is like, not the craziest stretch of all imagination. So, like, he's done it multiple times. And so
Has he ever missed time? Since he's been good, I'm not sure he's ever missed significant time.
I don't know. He hasn't missed time, but he had the elbow injury and, like, was not the same guy.
Yeah.
But, so with that all being said, as of it stands now, I know they've pared down the team. I think it's still the expectation in Buffalo that they're a playoff team. And the Jets should have that expectation, but I don't necessarily know that objectively looking at the division, all the people will see that. Other people outside of the Jets organization will see that. But I'm happy to be wrong here, and I want you to convince me why the Bills should be in the 2 spot and the Jets should be in the 1 spot.
Yeah, so I'm convinced that the point of this entire episode was for you to throw me to the Wolves again. For all the people that love Josh Allen. So I'm going to try my best to word this in a way that doesn't upset the Josh Allen hive. But this is essentially how I feel, is that Aaron Rodgers is better than Josh Allen. Like, that's kind of what it comes down to. I think outside of that, it's almost not even debatable that the rest of each roster is better. Like, we could go position by position. Like, we have a better running back. We have a better receiving core. They probably have us at tight end, depending on what happens at 10, right? And even if we do draft Bowers, like, you can't say anything about him because he's a rookie. So, like, I'll give it to Dawson Knox and the Kincaid kid. Yeah, he was awesome last year. I'll give it to them there. We probably have a better offensive line at this point, barring injury. We definitely have a better defense. I'm not even going to go position by position. We have a better defense. Our specials are probably better. Like, so it really comes down to coach and quarterback. And I believe that Aaron Rodgers is better than Josh Allen. I'm not sure everybody does, and I'm okay with that, right? I think also part of the Diggs trade was the Bills dumping cash. And I don't think that's a hot take. Like, Josh Allen's cap hit rose from 18 to 30 this year. Next year, it jumps to 60, and then 56, 50, 45 until 2028. That's what happens when you sign a quarterback to a mega deal, is that a couple years into that mega deal, you need to start dumping cash. It happened with Mahomes, and Mahomes is good enough to overcome it. Is Josh Allen good enough to overcome it? Like, I mean, the thing that I keep coming back to on Josh Allen is that he is a fantasy football juggernaut quarterback. He's going to post ridiculous stats. He's going to win you fantasy championships. And in my mind, I think that's why people defend him so hard, is because, like, he's probably won people money. And, like, it's kind of gets difficult to separate that from what he's actually doing. And I'm not saying that he's blowing games all the time, but I do think that he's probably a difficult quarterback to coach. And I don't think Sean McDermott is a good enough coach to overcome that. We'll see with a full offseason with Joe Brady, like what maybe he's got something cooking where he's going to be able to rein Josh Allen in a little bit and help him play within an offense. When I look at Josh Allen, all I think is that the eye popping plays we see, the gaudy stats we see him put up, that's a result of him not being able to play within the confines of an offense and then being so insanely physically talented that he can make crazy plays based on mistakes that he created, right? Like he's putting the offense in a bad spot and then getting out of it sometimes because he's insanely physically talented. So I don't think Sean McDermott is a good coach at all. I actually think he's probably a net negative for Buffalo. And we'll see what Joe Brady's able to bring. And honestly, logically, like I did think about whether or not it was okay for me to put the Jets over Buffalo here, simply because Buffalo has earned it. Whatever I think of Josh Allen doesn't really matter. Buffalo has earned it. They've won the division a few years in a row. They are the team to beat. They are the Vegas favorite. And Josh Allen has been in the playoffs a bunch of times. So, regardless of what I think of him, I understand that he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. They have earned it, and that made it a little difficult to put the Jets over them. But at the end of the day, I think Aaron Rodgers is better. And last we saw him in Green Bay, like he was still pretty good, right? We really didn't see anything here. And there's not necessarily a whole lot of data that says like you're going to rupture your Achilles again. It's a pretty freak injury. So I'm operating on the Aaron Rodgers that I know, the Josh Allen that I know, the Sean McDermott that I know, right? And that's not to say Saleh can coach circles around McDermott or anything. I actually think McDaniel's the best coach in the division. And I don't think that's necessarily a hot take either, which makes these rankings a little weird and wonky, right? Like we have the best coach third. We have potentially, if you think Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the division, we have him second, right? We have potentially one of the worst coaches at the top slot for me. So it's a little bit of a wonky kind of mix going on here. But again, for me, it just comes down to Aaron Rodgers is like the most talented quarterback to ever play the game physically, right? Has not won as much as Brady or Montana or even Peyton Manning. Like he hasn't done any of that stuff, but the things he does physically, the NFL had never seen it before he was doing it, really. And so I'm counting on that version, even if it's just for 14, 15 games. And that's why I have the Jets up top. I don't necessarily feel super secure about it, but that's where I'm at.
Listen, I mean, speaking candidly, we like to be level-headed and pragmatic and real with our audience, and I think both of us getting on here and saying, "Yeah, the Jets are the best team in division," would feel a little homerism. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to lay out those points. I don't think it's like the purpose of this exercise. I want to push back on your assertion was not to just throw you to the wolves, but was in my mind like going through it was to showcase like the the Bills lost key pieces. Trey White, Von Miller's another year older. Diggs is gone. Gabe Davis gone. The Dolphins lost pieces on defense. They lost Robert Hunt. They lost, these teams have gotten worse as the Jets have continued to get better, with the exception of losing Huff. And even then, we traded for Reddick to replace him. Like
Yeah.
the Jets this division is up for the taking, and in an even more competitive way than it was going into last season. And we obviously, teams are going to get better through the draft. We still have to get through that hurdle. But the Jets are positioned in a very great spot right now. Paul, any final thoughts before we wrap this week's episode?
Nope. Excited to bring home another national championship to add to the UConn case tomorrow night. And looking forward to the draft coming up. Come to the draft party. That includes you, Jake. Fly east. Come to the draft party.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, I will say best of luck. I do win my bracket if Purdue wins. So I was holding on to that until the end to get your reaction. But I
Well,
genuinely
listen,
best of luck. I don't think I'm winning.
we already had a friendly wager once. If you want to re up it, You know I'm ready.
No. This time I'm fine just losing my $20 in my tournament if it doesn't go my way. I was hoping to God Alabama would pull it off so I could like hedge on the back end, but obviously just the train rolls on. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please subscribe to the Badlands War Room tier if you want to get all the video content and all the stuff from across the network. Leave us a comment in the Discord. We'll be back to you guys next week, although next week is going to be Paul and guest because I'm going to be on the road. So I'll be back to you guys in 2 weeks, but Paul will have a kick-ass show with you guys next week. Until then, peace.